Hey everyone, welcome to Car Review. Today we're going to do a spoiler-filled review of the new movie Hobbs and Shaw. Again, this is your spoiler warning. I'm going to be talking about the movie as if you've seen it. So you have been warned. We're getting into spoilers now in 3, 2, 1, let's go. Alright, so Hobbs and Shaw, the newest installment in the Fast and Furious franchise, the first of what could potentially be many spin-offs, is just fantastic. Literally from the beginning of the movie, it's so much fun. There's so many good twists and turns and guest appearances, like getting Ryan Reynolds and Kevin Hart. Like my theater just laughed so hard. Not even when Ryan Reynolds did anything, just when he appeared. We were like, oh, that guy's super funny. And then the Kevin Hart, we were like, oh, I know him too. They made this movie they took it up a notch. You know, like you think The Rock and Jason Statham and Idris Elba and Vanessa Kirby be enough, and they're like, oh, guess what? We're gonna put 2 cherries on top, being Ryan Reynolds and Kevin Hart. You know, I want more of them. I hope they're in the next movies too. And like this movie it's so good. There's so many good surprises like that. Honestly, I was surprised, not in a negative sense, just surprised and like, oh, okay, that there weren't that many connections to the overall Fast and Furious film franchise. A few mentions here about, you know, the characters' past and stuff, but I thought for sure they were going to mention, you know, Vin Diesel's character, you know, Ludacris's character, maybe even Paul Walker's character. But it was really Jason Statham and Dwayne Johnson's, you know, boat. It was really their outing, and I'm really happy about that. I'm not saying that they needed more connections. I honestly think that the connections that they did have was good, because I didn't want this to seem like Fast and Furious 9. This is Hobbs and Shaw 1, and I say 1 because they could potentially keep going with these movies, and Lord knows that they will. They set it up perfectly. You know, Fast and Furious movies now might have post-credit scenes because we get 2 of them with Hobbs and Shaw, and they set up a good future story. But oh my gosh, like this movie was just so much fun for me. I loved it so much. To me, it is up there in the high ranks of the Fast and Furious movies. I mean, my favorite ones are 5 and 6, and now Hobbs and Shaw joins that list right there. And I can't wait to see this movie again. It was just such a blast for me. What a great way to begin my weekend. And I have work tomorrow and everything. And at the time of this recording, it's past midnight. You know, but whatever. Like this, I'm on a high right now. This movie was so much fun. I hardly ever get anything to eat when I go to the movies. I usually just go in and buy the ticket, sit down, and just watch my movie. But I got a pop and a big bucket of popcorn, and I just had a blast. And that's what this movie is. It is just a good, entertaining time from start to finish, filled with good actions, good laughs, good story, great characters, played by great actors. It's just amazing. Like Vanessa Kirby, like, who would have thought she would have been such a great standout in this movie? To me, she carries herself so well alongside The Rock and Jason Statham that she truly feels like a worthy part of this movie. She's not just another pretty face. She's not a damsel in distress. When they start acting on all cylinders, being the trio, you know, of those 3 characters, it really just elevates the movie. You want to see more of them specifically, and I hope that we do. I hope, you know, she comes back. I hope, you know, they keep the same production team, because there is definitely a distinction between the last couple of Fast and Furious movies to Hobbs and Shaw. You know, Fast and Furious 8 definitely is not one of my favorites. I thought it got too silly, too off the rails, and I thought for sure Hobbs and Shaw was going to embrace that fully, because when those first couple of trailers came out, and you see like Dwayne Johnson like jumping off a skyscraper and swinging on, you know, a freaking cable with a guy attached to it, I was like, okay. I was like, we're gonna get more kind of just, at least it's fun type stuff, because that's how I walked out of the Fate of the Furious. But no, they really did a good job of walking that line of it being, you know, a little over the top, but also keeping it semi-grounded. Again, there are super soldiers in this movie. Idris Elba, he is the bad guy. He is a augmented soldier, and I honestly feel like that was a writing decision they did, specifically because they needed a villain that could compete with Jason Statham and The Rock combined. Jason Statham is a super slick dude. That guy is awesome. He does all of his own stunts pretty much and everything. The guy knows like legitimate martial arts. He is just a force, and so is The Rock. The Rock is physically massive. Okay, that's the reason why he's called The Rock. This dude can probably eat me times 2. I mean, Like, when you get those guys together, you have to have a force that's like physically large and physically tough enough to handle them. And Idris Elba, while he is a big dude, he is not the biggest dude. In fact, I think Jason Statham and The Rock are both taller than Idris Elba. Don't quote me on that, I don't know. But I feel like, okay, they need to have him on a similar strength level. What can we do? Make him super soldier. And for me, that premise sounded really bad on paper. I was really put off by that. I thought, well, there goes the last little tinge of realism. They're really going to turn into the science fiction aspect of the Fast and Furious franchise going forward. And they honestly kind of did. And they kind of did not. They started turning to the skid and then they pulled back. I thought that they served what was the setting and the grounds for this movie in a really nice way. They did not cram down your throat being, super soldiers, explosions, cars, women, muscles, grunting, gunshots. They just said, look, we have all these great aspects that we know make these movies great. Let's just make this into a 2-hour movie and just chop it up and serve it up nicely. Let's not have the submarine breach the ice and then fire a torpedo, and then The Rock literally moves the torpedo across the ice and it crashes into another enemy vehicle, all while he's racing alongside a Lamborghini. Like I mentioned, they were on ice. Like there was nothing like that. Sure, he physically holds a helicopter in place, and sure, like I said, he's jumping off of cables while falling from a skyscraper and stuff. But whatever it was, I don't know if I'm tired, if I'm just like, if this is like a bias, but everything they were doing in this movie, I was watching, I was like, you know what? It's a little crazy, a little weird. It might be just a tad too much, but it's not too much to take me out of the movie and go like, well, now I'm lost. Now you've completely jumped the shark. Again, like I can't take this seriously. I did. I took it all very seriously, and I thoroughly enjoyed myself. I think that if they keep making the movies in the vein of this, where they tiptoe over the line, then they tiptoe back, I think it'll be a great way to make the movies going forward by upping the action and the stakes, but also having it just settle enough to where it doesn't feel like mindless movie time going on, like you wouldn't get with like a Transformers that just rots your brain from the inside out. So hats off to the production team. Speaking of the production team, I completely forgot that David Leitch made this movie. He directed it, and hats off to David Leitch and to also Chad Stahelski, who made the first John Wick movie together. And they came from a stunt background. They had really no interest in directing movies, but then when they came up with the idea of John Wick, they said, well, who can make this better than ourselves? And they made that, and that became a huge hit. Over time it did, at least, and now they're doing amazing things. Chad Stahelski has stuck with the John Wick franchise, and he's been crushing it. 2 and 3 were amazing, and I think he has another set of movies planned around the universe at Dune, which sounds awesome. And then David Leitch, he went on to make Deadpool 2, and now he's doing Hobbs & Shaw. And these guys are legitimate directors, and immediately when David Leitch's name popped up as directed by, I was like, of course. I was like, that's why the action was captured so well. That's why the camera wasn't choppy, cutty, shaky. That's why it was captured in such a great way. And he carries over a lot of his behind the scenes crew. Tyler Bates, who did the music for John Wick as well. I think he also contributed to Deadpool 2 score, but don't quote me on that. He was here for Hobbs & Shaw, and just he knows how to make movies and how to make really entertaining movies without them being, just mindless times. He has a crew who he clearly trusts, and clearly The Rock and Jason Statham, like him because they're very hands-on producers. And I think that if they keep that dream team together of David Leitch and The Rock and Jason Statham, I think that this could be a great second franchise that's in the vein of the Fast and Furious. I think it could be a good stepping point off for this series to continue, because, again, don't quote me, but I vaguely remember that around the time Furious 7 came out, we were all holding our breath to see what would come next for this franchise. In Universal had something on the lines of we had the next 10 movies, or 10 years worth of movies planned, excuse me. And this was one of them. And honestly, I hope now that this includes a Hobbs 2 through 6. I think that or Hobbs & Shaw, excuse me, 2 through 6, because I love this movie. I want more of these. It was a lot of fun for me, and I can't recommend this enough. I'm surprised that they killed off Idris Elba. I'm also surprised that they kind of went back to the villain, the mastermind, was like talking in that robotic voice that you would hear from like a 90s action movie, where it's like, I am the one overseer, you know, kind of like in that typical kind of like, ooh, mysterious bad guy, you know. And he claims to have a connection to Hobbs, and I was trying to think throughout the franchise who Hobbs could have interacted with that could have, you know, had him rise up to be that prolific of a villain. No one comes to mind. If you have an idea, comment down below, let me know, because that'd be really interesting. And I wonder if it is a pre-established villain, or if it is just someone that Hobbs wronged in a previous movie, or if it's just a totally new guy and they just kind of seed in his backstory throughout the next set of movies. Regardless, though, I'm really interested in seeing where this goes. I want more of them. This exceeded my expectations, and I think this is a great movie in so many ways. Again, does it jump the shark a little bit? Yeah, it does a little bit, but honestly, I think I would have been a little disappointed had it not done that, because we're at the point now in Fast and Furious where we know what we're getting. We've seen them drag bank vaults across highways. We've seen them, you know, be tethered to giant planes that take off on like a 10-mile runway. We've seen cars jump through buildings. We've seen submarines breach Antarctic ice, you know, and stuff like that. And everyone's joking about, whoa, the Fast and Furious movies go to space. I think that's pretty much inevitable. I think at some point they're going to breach the atmosphere. But for right now, we're on Earth still, and we have to enjoy that fact with these movies. And this movie was literally everything I wanted from this idea of a movie. When they said we're doing a Hobbs and Shaw movie centered around the characters of Jason Statham's Shaw and The Rock's Hobbs character, I was like, yes, please do this right. And they exceeded my expectations. I can't wait to do this movie again. It was so much fun. I can't recommend it enough. What else? I'm trying to think here before I forget. I don't want to ramble, but you know, there's a lot that went on in this movie, and I want to make sure I touch on some things. I thought that they did a good job of servicing family well, because obviously, you know, these movies are about family, you know, and everything, and they didn't beat you over the head with it's all part of the family, man, you know. But like they took what they knew works with the Fast and Furious movies, and they gave it to you in nice small doses. They didn't overfeed you, you know, and stuff like that. So I thought that was really nice. Action was great. It wasn't just a whole bunch of alpha males just being alpha males. You know, I seriously, I think they did so much in this movie right. I'm surprised that they killed Idris Elba off. Don't know if he's fully dead, because that kind of like organization, you know, could still like be, you know, kind of kicking up super soldiers every now and then. Also, speaking of kicking up stuff again, I don't know if Ryan Reynolds' character was like being legit when he's like, hey, I know you just stopped this one virus, but we have another one. That seems super lame. Super lame. Like, let's do this all over again. And like, granted, they'll have my money times 5. But I mean, you gotta change it up a little bit, you know. Give us different flavors of food. Don't just keep giving us, you know, the same stuff. Otherwise, I think this movie is great. I really don't have anything to dislike about it, other than, you know, just sometimes it felt like it was a little too much. But again, compared to other entries like Fate of the Furious, this is like boots on the ground type stuff, you know, because I thought the Fate of the Furious was ridiculous. But yeah, anyway, I love this movie so much. Please go check it out. Tell your friends about it. Bring your friends. It is such a good time. I know it's coming out in August, but this is a summer movie, and I'm so happy we have more Fast and Furious movies on the way. I love this franchise so much, and it's so much fun, and I can't wait for more of them. So that is my review of Hobbs and Shaw. If you like this video, comment, share, like, subscribe to all the good stuff. And thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next video. All right.